In a market dominated by GoPro, there's a lot of new killer action camera coming up every year. At a fraction of the price of the expensive GoPro, these new action cameras are making a lot of waves. Today we have such an action camera that has managed to stand out with a sleek and robust design. The camera in this case is the AKASO V50 Pro, which is one of the best looking on the market with its rubberized grey exterior and waterproof housing offering good quality without breaking the bank. So without further ado, let's get started with the unboxing of the action camera. From the looks of packaging, the AKASO V50 Pro screams GoPro. The camera itself comes in its waterproof housing, which we will come back to later. For now, let's get into the accessories. The AKASO V50 Pro comes with loads of accessories inside the box. There are two 1100 mAh battery and battery charger that can charge both batteries at the same time. There are a bunch of other mounting knickknacks, a handlebar clamp, a plate with a 1/4 inch, an additional protective back door for the waterproof housing, and a bunch of other stuff including a lens cloth. The AKASO V50 Pro also comes with a remote control watch. So that goes the unboxing. Now let's move on to the camera itself. From the looks of the camera, the AKASO V50 Pro exterior design looks pretty similar to the GoPro Hero action cameras. With the grey rubberized finish of the camera body is one of the nicest that I have seen. However, compared to the GoPro action cameras, the AKASO V50 Pro looks cheaper. The build quality of the action camera is not that impressive. All the ports and everything else of the action camera is pretty exposed. So you shouldn't go out with this camera without waterproof casing. The AKASO V50 Pro is a $120 action camera. Thus, it is expected that the build quality won't match the level of GoPro. Anyways, on the base of the housing, there is a familiar GoPro style mount, meaning that you can use the AKASO V50 Pro with almost any GoPro accessory. The camera is held securely inside with no room for wobble or rattle within. The camera has a simplistic design with micro HDMI, mini USB and micro SD card slot on the side. And on top there are two buttons for power and changing modes and shutter. While on the base, there is an access flap to the battery. Holding down the red button will turn on or off the action cam, and the blue one starts and stops recording. All settings and options can be quickly accessed by tapping the touchscreen or using the app. The touchscreen is quite good but not quite as responsive as those recently seen on the SJ-Cam cameras. It does not have the most ergonomic design, but the touchscreen gets the job done. It's a shame that you can't use the touchscreen with the waterproof housing on. Anyways, the settings are pretty straightforward and as easy as it gets. The specs of the AKASO V50 Pro are very impressive, and the camera is capable of shooting at 4K 30 frames per second, 2K at 30 frames per second, Full HD 60 and 30 frames per second, and 720p at 120 and 60 frames per second. This action camera also has built-in electronic image stabilization and adjustable field of view and can shoot stills at up to 20 megapixels. There is a built-in Wi-Fi, so you can also connect the action camera with the app available for Android and iOS. Anyways, now that we are familiar with most of the settings and made necessary adjustments, it's time to put the camera into action. So the footage shot at 4K is quite good, even though slightly over-sharpened. However, they are decent enough for a camera of this range. The exposure and dynamic range are also well within the range of satisfactory quality and an overall pleasing color and saturation. By no means the quality is at the level of GoPro, but they are decent enough for an action camera of this price. However, drop the resolution to 1080p and the footages start to fall apart. The footage begins to lose details and tonal range. Switching to 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second had no visual impact on the video, as there were no real improvement between the two frame rates at 1080p. Meanwhile, downgrading the resolution to 720 at 120 frames per second doesn't make any difference either, and the footage becomes unusable. Stabilization at 4K is quite impressive. Sure enough, the stabilization by no means is equal to GoPro's Hyper Smooth. However, it's good enough to make an impactful difference and can make a real difference to be useful. Although the stabilization does have a slight wrapping effect around the edges, but it's not that bad and doesn't distract from the footage itself. Although for an action camera, shooting videos is its real domain, but the AKASO V50 Pro can be useful for taking still images, particularly in hostile environment. Like every action camera, the resulting photos are a product of the fisheye lens they have been taken through. However, if you don't get caught up on the sensor stats and ignore the lens quality, you will see that the V50 is capable of producing decent quality still images. You can take time-lapse, long exposure photos, bursts, and regular 20 megapixel still. The color depth is decent, so is the light balance and spot-on exposure control. You can also adjust the angle of the camera according to your preference and choose from super wide, side, narrow, and medium. Of course, the image capture quality is no match to GoPro's, but for the price range, AKASO V50 Pro is decent and produces good enough images. So the AKASO V50 Pro is not waterproof, but it comes with a waterproof housing. So you can take this camera underwater and it is good for depths up to 30 meters. Although you won't be able to use the touchscreen, but the video quality is pretty much decent for filming underwater. When it comes to audio quality, most action cameras are not that impressive. The AKASO V50 Pro is no exception at this. But there is an optional external mic you can get from AKASO. Although a downside of the camera is that the AKASO external mic is the only microphone that is compatible with the camera. The internal mic can record stereo and the quality is passable. While the external mic records mono and the audio is not that impressive, yet decent enough to be useful. The AKASO V50 Pro has an app that you can download from the Play Store and App Store as well. Connecting the camera to the app is easy. All you need to do is turn on the Wi-Fi from settings and connect the action camera to your smartphone. The app is pretty handy and cool, as you'll be able to adjust the settings of the camera directly from your smartphone. This will come pretty handy when the camera is inside the waterproof housing, as you won't be able to use the touchscreen. With the app, you'll be able to share a bunch of stuff to social media as well. Wi-Fi connection is decent, has about 1 second lag and a decent enough range, but it's not the most trustworthy connection. So you can leave the connection hassle using the HDMI or USB cables, or get your pictures and videos directly from the SD card. Battery life is important for any kind of camera. With its 1100 mAh battery, the AKASO V50 Pro can shoot up to 90 minutes straight at 4K resolution, which is quite decent in my opinion. And when you consider that the camera comes with two 1100 mAh lithium polymer batteries, I think you won't have much to complain about the battery life. The V50 also comes with a wrist remote that looks a lot like a watch and can help you shoot easily. The wrist remote can be handy when the camera is inside the waterproof case. Although the remote is not without disappointment, every time you turn off the V50 Pro, so does the remote and camera's Bluetooth radio. So you have to turn off the radio every time you want to pair the watch. It would have been much better execution if the camera could remember last settings, which would have saved a lot of time and less frustrating. Another disappointing thing about the remote is that it's not waterproof, so you can use it underwater. But if you could, it would have been pretty neat. Now that we are done with almost everything the camera does, it's time for verdict. The AKASO V50 Pro isn't the best action camera out there. It can't even stand against many of the features that GoPro offers. However, if you consider the price, the AKASO V50 Pro is 1/3 of the GoPro Hero 8 Black. At this price point, you won't be able to get a better action camera than this one. The AKASO V50 Pro is not without its issues, but at this price point, you will get 4K resolution, which you won't even get in GoPro's cheapest available option. The AKASO V50 Pro offers better quality than any other action cameras of this range. Its EIS image stabilization is also pretty great, and the footage captures with this action cam looks smooth, sharp, and produces colorful images. The audio quality could be better. But that being said, if you're on a budget and you want to shoot some awesome footages of your travels, there isn't a lot of option that is as good as the AKASO V50 Pro. Overall, I would say that AKASO V50 Pro is the best budget 4K action camera on the market right now. So with that, we are at the end of our video today reviewing the AKASO V50 Pro. So that sums up our video for today. If you like this video, then hit the like and share with your friends. Comment below to let us know your thoughts. Consider subscribing to this channel if you want to see more videos from us and press the bell icon to get notified for our next video.